In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how to make the beautiful herringbone half double crochet in the round to form a rectangle. The herringbone half double crochet creates a gorgeous texture that looks great on both sides. This is an easy one round repeat that can be worked continuously to whatever size you like. So if you do want to make this a full-size blanket, this will keep it shaped perfectly for that. For this demonstration, I'm using a 4mm hook with a weight 4 cotton yarn, but if you wanted to have a little bit more drape, then I would recommend that you go up to a 5mm. If I continue on with this sample here, it'll turn into a baby blanket size of 30 by 36 inches, but it's very easy to adapt this to any size that you want. I did a video all about it last week that I'll go ahead and pop here as well as in the description box below the video. In a nutshell, you want to figure out the size of your completed project and then separate the width from the length. And that number is going to tell you how long you want to make your initial chain. For example, for this sample, I wanted it to be 30 by 36. So that's 36 minus 30, giving me a total of 6 inches. And that's what I have here. And then once you have that established, you're just going to create a chain to that length. The beauty of this stitch is we don't have a multiple that we need to deal with. We just need to make a chain to the length that we need. So for example, for this sample, I started with a chain of 21. But of course, depending on the hook and yarn you're using, that will vary. But for the tutorial here, I'm going to continue on with that same number and do a chain of 21. To make my slip knot, I like to wrap the yarn around my fingers, go through the center, and tighten to form a slip knot. And then I'm going to chain 21. This is just a little under 6 inches, but I found that when I add the stitches, it stretches out to 6 inches. To work round one, we're going to be working all the way around our chain, forming our corners in each end, here and here. Now the herringbone half double crochet can be a little tricky at first, but once you get that first round done, it gets a lot easier. Starting in the third chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3. Behave as if you're doing a regular half double crochet. Yarn around the hook, going into the chain. Pull your yarn through. And then instead of yarning over and pulling through all 3, you're going to take the first loop near the tip of your hook and pull it through the middle loop. Then you'll yarn over and pull through 2. That's a herringbone half double crochet. Now this is the beginning of our first corner. I'm not going to complete it right now. I'm going to go all the way around and finish it on the other side. I would recommend at this point going ahead and adding a stitch marker into the top of that very first stitch. It's going to come in very handy when we come back around. With this stitch, it's a little bit hard to see where we want to finish off with that stitch. Now this is the beginning of our first corner. We're going to go all the way around and complete it on the other side. Technically, this is a side of your first corner. So now we're going to add a chain 2 and do another herringbone half double into the same chain. So I yarned over, I'm going into the chain, pulling through, and now taking that first loop, pulling it through the second loop, yarning over, and pulling through the 2 remaining loops. And now we're just going to do the herringbone half double crochet in each stitch across. So yarn over, going into the chain, pull the yarn through, pull the first loop through the second, yarn over, and pull through 2. And you're just going to continue this all the way across until we get to the very last chain. In the final chain, we're going to form our next corner. So that's 1 herringbone half double, chain 2. Now we're forming our first side of that corner. So that's 1 herringbone half double, chain 2, and one more herringbone half double into the same chain. So you'll have a herringbone half double, chain 2 space, herringbone half double, chain 2 space, herringbone half double. And if you have an issue like I do with it getting really gappy, for this side it's very easy to fix. You're just going to undo that slip knot and pull on it. Now that's going to keep loosening up, but you can weave it in later. The other side, there isn't a really great solution for it other than just weaving and tightening that in with another strand of yarn. That's what I like to do. And now we're just going to do a herringbone half double into each chain across, just like we did on the other side. It may be a little tricky to see here, but I like to place my stitch right under the 2 strands of the 2 interlocking chains, so it's touching the previous herringbone half double. Once you get past this first round, it will be smooth sailing. This is just a little tricky, making sure that you're getting into the proper stitch and getting under that loop. I use my thumb to hold down the previous loop to just help anchor that down. But again, you notice here I'm just going under those 2 loops or strands of that interlocking chain. Once you come to the very last chain, we have our stitch marker in the top of the first herringbone half double, chain 2, and then another herringbone half double. So to complete this corner, we're going to do a herringbone half double into the chain. And instead of doing another chain 2 to complete the corner, we're going to do a half double crochet. And this is where that stitch marker comes in really handy, because otherwise it's kind of hard to see where we want it to go. But we want it to go into the space where our stitch marker is, and just pull the yarn through and create a half double crochet. And that's the first round completed. Now I want this to be 6 inches. And you can see it did stretch out to 6 inches. I'm going to continue on with the same color for the next round, but you can switch colors if you like. I will be showing how to switch colors in the next segment after this round. Chain 1 and turn. For this project, I do recommend that you turn after every round. It's going to help with that effect of the herringbone. And it's also going to keep your rectangle nice and straight. And again, I would recommend that you add a stitch marker into the top of that stitch until you get used to the look of it, because once you come around, it's kind of hard to see where you want to end that round. And now we're just going to continue on doing a herring half double into the previous stitch all the way across. And because we're working on the back side, it is a little bit more tricky to see where you want to put your stitch. So I would recommend that you just turn the work towards you and look for your very first distinct V shape. It's right here. That's where you want your hook to go, right underneath it. So yarn over, going into that stitch, pull the yarn through and create your herringbone half double. And you're just going to continue this all the way across until you get to your next corner. And don't forget the stitch right next to the corner space. That can be easy to miss. And here we have our first corner. We have a chain 2 space, a herringbone half double, and a chain 2 space. So in the first chain 2 space, herringbone half double, chain 2, herringbone half double into the same space. And then in that herringbone half double crochet, we're just going to put another one right into the top of it. And we're back to another corner space, so that's just a herringbone half double crochet, chain 2, herringbone half double crochet. So what you'll see on the side here is a chain 2 space with 3 herringbone half doubles with another chain 2 space. And now you're just going to continue along the other side, repeating the same sequence of herring half doubles into every stitch. Again, don't forget that last stitch right before that chain 2. Very easy to miss. So in our chain 2 space, our usual corner of 1 herringbone half double, chain 2, herringbone half double. We have 1 herringbone half double in the center that we need to work into. And now we're back to our corner, our original corner. And here's our stitch marker to help us see where we need to complete the stitch. So we're going to do 1 herringbone half double. And instead of a chain 2, we're going to do a half double crochet, and we're going to complete it in the top of the very first stitch we made. And that's round 2 completed. For changing colors, I like to just take my hook and go through the 3 bars of that half double crochet, bring in my new color, and pull it through those loops. Pull on the old color, chain 1, and turn. And now you're just going to repeat the same sequence as round 2. You're going to start with your very first corner, just half of it, with 1 herringbone half double. Working the available stitches from below. There's 3 here. And then do your corner just as normal, with a chain 2, and continue all the way around with the same sequence. And again, don't forget to add a stitch marker into that very first stitch until you get comfortable with what it looks like. To help yourself stay on track with your count, you're always going to increase by 2 on your sides. For example, on your shorter side, you had 1 herringbone half double, then 3, and then 5. Initially, I shared how to do this as a granny square, but I did have requests on how to convert it into a rectangle. Now, if you missed that very first video and you'd like to learn how to do the square shape, I'll be sure to add it at the end of the video, as well as in the description box. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, a like is always appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.